What's good, everyone? It's been a year, a very long off season, but we're finally here at my power rankings for the Overwatch League 2022 season. It's to my immense disappointment, and probably to yours as well, the 5 people who are watching this, that unfortunately none of our special guests are available this year. They've both politely rejected the call to action, the call of duty, to this year's amazing tier list, power ranking. Well, power ranking, whatever. I can't talk. I'm very tired. But yeah, they've been out of the loop of Overwatch League and haven't been catching it up as much as I have because Lord knows I'm a sad, addicted fuckboy with nothing else better to do in his life. But here we are. Perhaps for a future video, however, you will see the legendary arm mug and the legendary Sirius Destroyer. But for now, it's just little old me. Giving my own little takes for this year's Overwatch League Power Rankings for Season 5. This whole new era of Overwatch 2. There's a lot of volatility to be seen probably, so why don't we just jump straight into the video. I'm going to go in alphabetical order, so let's talk about the Atlanta Reign first. I think this team is sneaky good. Not obviously with the fact that speedily, like the big talk of the Atlanta Reign this offseason, speedily April Fool's video, April Fool's announcement, only being available during like what is it? Right before the halfway point of the whole season, or like just past like during the 3rd stage, which that is quite a long time for a player to be inactive. But I think that even without that, because this, by the way, this power rankings will be done so that it should reflect the end of season results. So taking into account like their success during the regular season and all that, I still think that Atlanta Reign is an incredibly good team, all things considered. I think that their rookies in Venom and OG and Ultraviolet are very, very good. I rate them very highly. If that comes to bite me in the ass later, you can kiss my sorry ass, but speedily, I think is going to do wonders for them. But I think the rest of the team can hold well on their own. I think the major downfall of this team, however, is just in the tank line, that Gator and Hawk don't have that synergy anymore in a 5v5 meta. With just a single tank and both playmaking tanks. I think maybe Hawk can come up to the job, but Gator, I'm not too sure. But Gator's still very mechanically skilled. I just have very high hopes for this team, I'll be completely honest. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Atlanta Reign. Moving on to the Boston Uprising, however. Some amazing production value here. Decently big roster. A lot of flexibility to cover all the bases. They've prepared for a double flexible with Crimzo and MCD, but they've also got Faith. Having Striker back on DPS, along with Valentine and Victoria. I probably would be saying that between Valentine and Victoria, I don't exactly have an understanding of their full potential, most likely. It's been a while since I watched any Overwatch League, so I don't remember Valentine much except for people not rating him very highly. I think this is just me being a little bit too believing in the redeeming nature of humans, but Valentine, I feel like he could redeem himself. That could be a hot take, but guess we'll see. I still think this DPS line, though, could prove to be deadly, but perhaps only in specific metas. Then looking at the tank line, Itzal and Punk, it's a pretty stacked off-tank roster. However, it's not exactly elite. And having Marv 1 on the main tank, we've seen some flashes of good from Marvel. In fact, quite a lot of flashes of amazing play. But in Overwatch 2, no one really knows his capabilities. At least in my opinion, that we could see Marvel struggle on the main tank role in something that's completely different. Although I think his playmaking style at times could prove to be quite useful. I am tempted by the Boston Uprising. I'm not completely convinced though. I think they've got a ton of good pieces. Like, I really rate Faith. Between Crimzo and MCD, they're two pretty good flex supports. I'm not sure. Probably mid-tier by the end of this, but we'll see once we get to the actual power rankings. Now, the team that I represent got the Chengdu Hunters sweater and jacket on. It was really sad to see so many people leave. Varway, Yveltal, and fucking Aprita leaving the Chengdu Hunters. It breaks my heart. And, well, I'm not sure if I should be making this video now before Aprita has been signed again to another team. It's just really hard to say at this point in time. Just looking at the Chengdu Hunters all in all, I'm really sad that we're not going to be able to see Leave, Aprita, and Jinwoo as a DPS trio. That could have been so sick. But right now, just with the pieces that the Hunters have, working on a league minimum, I'm still decently excited. You still got Jeev and Jeev, oh my goodness, Leave and Jinmu. You still have Gaga, one of the best main tanks out there. Got Nisha and Monk, who did wonders last year. And now you also have a new tank player in Dai, or I think in Chinese it's supposed to be Daizi, I think, which means idiot. But I'm pretty certain that he's not an idiot. I haven't watched Chinese contenders this year, but last year I should say. I've heard he's good from like Kenobi and Avril, what they say on Twitter. An unknown quantity, but it doesn't make me lose hope in the Hunters. Now that could be my copium. But I think they would still punch upwards. I'm almost certain that they're not going to be bottom tier at the very least. They'd be fighting for a mid tier, somewhere like that. Oh god, production quality is a little dodgy right now, so we'll just look at Dallasfield from this dodgy angle. Pretty much the same roster as last year. Building on their core of Doha, Sparkle, Fearless, Hanbin, and Fielder, but adding some, I believe, some crucial pieces. Adding Chiyo as main support in place of Jekse, who last year he was really, really good. But perhaps what the Dallas will actually need is a main support that has a bit more playmaking potential and could develop as an amateur player. I think Chiyo can step up to that. I'm not too familiar with his gameplay though. And I could be mistaking Chiyo for another main support, but I believe he was one of the top main supports in that contention below people like Chorong from Korean contenders last year. I think under Rush and Aid and Rascal, I think in this new Overwatch 2 game, I think Chiyo could prove to be deadly. And then to top off their hit scan issues last year, which this is just the debatable bit as to whether Dallas Fuel actually good or not. They got Edison and Guerrillo. Guerrillo probably going to be specializing on long range hit scan. Edison probably going to be specializing in anything from any hit scan from McCree to Tracer to Sombra, these kinds of tracking heroes. It's difficult to say whether or not they'll actually fill the holes that Dallas Fuel might have needed, or they will just present like a conflict of interest between the Dallas Fuel members. Like, because Doha and Sparkle had so much success last year just playing the non-meta like picks with the Symmetra Reaper, Symmetra Doom, with the Soldier at times. It's difficult to say what would happen, and I think if I'm not mistaken, if the beta meta is still going to revolve around Soldier, then at least Sparkle, having experience at the pro level with Soldier, might have some standout performances, at least in the initial weeks or in the first meta. It's difficult to say. I still think, though, that overall, looking at the entire roster holistically, it's a very good roster. At least it has to be top tier. Like, I can only imagine that the downfall of this team being in the fact that they're not able to figure out their identity compared to last year. Like, they're not sure whether they want to go do this thing or do that thing, and then they get confused, and then it all falls down. But I'm almost certain that's not going to happen. This team is too good to have that issue. Fearless is such a great playmaking main tank. Harbin as well. Clutch plays on the off tank. Fielder being such an important member of the team as well. The Ping King, as they called him. This team just seems too stacked to fall over. So I'm expecting good things from Dallas. I'm expecting at least top tier, I think. Righty, moving on to the Florida Mayhem. A very, very, very interesting team, I think. And if I believe if you believe what the Overwatch League video reporting on the offseason moves have shown us, it seems like Checkmate is rostered to be a tank player, which seems incredibly stupid. But who the fuck knows? Maybe Overwatch 2 just needs a feeding, playmaking main tank player, even though they already have someone, which is going to be the death of me, someone as a player tag. But someone is a very talented main tank from Contenders Korea. I'm not sure what is going on in the Florida Mayhem, but apparently it was enough to kick Mira out from the roster in place of Xe. If that's the case, surely Checkmate is the DPS player. I have no fucking clue. But yeah, they have Xe and Hydron and Checkmate for a DPS line. Xe back out of his, I believe it was a break. He didn't retire. He's just taking the breaks. But this seems like a very odd DPS line. I'm not sure how Checkmate... I remember Checkmate having spots of light on Echo and maybe some others that I'm just forgetting, because honestly Checkmate was kind of forgettable except for the fact that he kept feeding on Ryan. Then you have Hydron, who's an American, like, sort of, I believe he's a hit scan, but can also flex a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure. But I think we all know Xe being a god on Widow and McCree. I feel like the flexibility of this DPS line is not terrific, if I'm being completely honest. I'm not sure how this system is going to work. I'm not sure who or what they're going to play at any one time. I remember seeing a thing about who's going to play Soldier of this tank, of this DPS line, but I think the biggest issue is in flex, like having Checkmate as your only projectile specialist. It's a very confusing DPS line to me. Talking about the tank line, then I already mentioned someone. I still can't take that name seriously, but someone on the main tank, I think he's sure to do good things. And amazingly, Adam, I feel like I'm gonna be like the biggest Adam supporter of 2022, purely because he's Australian. He struggled so much with the whole Valiant situation last year, and then getting fucked by that, and then now he's on the Florida Mayhem. I feel like Adam could do some amazing things on this team. Probably where people see to be the biggest weak link of this team is the tank line, just purely on the fact that they're rookies. And I do believe seeing Adam's actual gameplay, at least in the Overwatch League, I think it was the Valiant Winter Bowl of 2020, at the early 2021, I believe Adam was not particularly amazing from what I remember from that. But who knows? It's been basically a year and that was just a little bit. Adam could prove to be a really strong off tank, especially in Overwatch 2. I have somewhat high hopes in this tank line. And then looking at supports, we have the two flex supports of Kariv and Majed. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Apologies if I mispronounced that. But you also have Animo, and this is very interesting. You got Majed, who's probably the I'm low-key calling Majed the starting flex support here, or who I predict will be the starting flex support, because Kariv, he might be a little bit out of his prime. I'm not entirely sure how I wanna view Kariv. It's just he seems like he had amazing performances in 2019, and then from then on it's not been particularly amazing. Perhaps you can find that drive again, and maybe under some new coaching, and alongside a lot of rookies. But I just don't feel like Kariv has what Majed has in a new rookie with a new drive to perform. And then you add Animo onto that, who in my eyes was a very passive main support that is also capable of playmaking. Like, we've seen Animo do crazy kills on Lucio and doing stuff like that, but he doesn't seem to be, from what I remember, he's not incredibly well rounded, if that's fair in saying, and he doesn't have the potential of some other playmakers, some elite main supports in the league. He's certainly elite in some aspects, but perhaps not in the places that Overwatch 2 or the Overwatch League needs him to be. So overall, Mayhem, I'm not too sure about this, honestly. They could prove to be incredible in some metas and just shit the bed in others. I'm not too sure. I guess we'll just see. Alright, moving on to talking about the Guangzhou Charge, which I have a sneaky suspicion is going to try to pick up Aprita. But having a look at the roster, you have already what I think is a pretty stacked DPS line of Choice1, Develop, and Eileen. Like, Eileen being a flex player, Choice1, projectile specialist, projector. I don't know where my intonation's gone. And Develop on the hit scan. That to me already seems like a sneaky good DPS line. I mean, Develop sitting on the bench of the Shanghai Dragons. Perhaps he didn't show too many great performances last year, but he only played so many maps. I'm not too sure where Develop is in terms of the rest of the Overwatch League. But I think Develop could do good stuff on the hit scan. Just a matter of seeing where he actually takes it, I guess. And then Eileen, fucking cracked player, when alongside Choice1, who's going to be like, I'm tempted to say feeding as a joke, but genuinely, insane playmaking style that I think could pay off dividends in Overwatch 2. I think if you add Aprita to this, that would be really, really good. And get that Eileen Aprita duo. They're kind of both flex players, so it wouldn't really make sense. But if it happens, I'd be happy. But Aprita aside, just this DPS line by itself, I think they're sneaky good. Talking about the tank line, then the long-standing duo of Rio and Krong. Krong, I think, will do amazing things in Overwatch 2. I think he'll find that spark that he had in 2020, in his debut year as a rookie. Rio, though, I'm not too sure. I think Rio is a little out of the Overwatch 2 like sort of style that we're expecting in a playmaking main tank. And I think what has long been his best role at Orisa has just been like completely shattered. It's basically a whole new hero And considering that the tank synergy between Rio and Krong of 2020 that I guess existed, that revolved a lot around Orisa. Obviously, they didn't see too much success in 2021, so I'm not entirely sure what that boils down to. But if it does boil down to the fact that the tank synergy with Orisa and Rio playing the Orisa, if that fails, then I'm not sure what's going to happen to Krong and Rio. They could just end up falling out. Or at least Rio. I think Krong by himself in the off tank is still going to be one of the main forces of the Guangzhou Charge. And then you have the support line of Molly and Unique. I think these are both incredible pickups. Molly, probably underrated as an incredible flex support that was benched on the Shanghai Dragons because Izayaki was there. But I think Molly, from what I've seen, from what I remember seeing in 2020 on the Chengdu Hunters, Molly could still do amazing things. And Unique, I think his main support play was something that the world was expecting him to get picked up earlier. I remember seeing things as early as, I think, 2020, I believe. Not sure. Could be misremembering, but I think Unique is going to be also pretty good for this team. Bit of an unknown quantity though, alongside someone like Develop, honestly. But I think this deep support line could do good things. It's just a matter of, I guess, seeing now what they do with Rio and what they do with this DPS trio in general. But I think Guangzhou Charge could do good things this year. That could be me being completely off the goof, but yeah, I'll hold myself to it, and I'll take the dive. Looking at the Hangzhou Spark though, again, another really cracked roster. Just a matter, I guess, now of whether they can bring it all together. They have a DPS line of Alpha E, Architect, Pineapple, and Shy. Now, if you could get a Shy off Alpha E duo in itself, that by itself would just be fucking cracked. You still have Architect, which I guess it's a person they want to build around. They've kept him there for quite a while, and Architect, it appears to me like Architect is a little bit out of his prime as well as like some other players in the league, and they're just keeping him for team leadership, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure the structure of the Spark, so I can't comment fully, but still having Architect there, and I think Architect is a good piece in some places, so I guess it's good to have him. I think he's still playing Alpha E most of the time though. And then you have Pineapple, so you have like Chinese hit scan and then Korean flex support, flex DPS. I am incredibly tired, don't mind me. But yeah, having Shy and Pineapple, Pineapple, not too sure about his capabilities, unknown quantity to me at least. I think he could do good stuff from what I've seen, at least. I think he's had some success in Chinese contenders, and that's pretty much all I need to view the Hangzhou Spark as a good, I can't talk. That's all I really need to see Pineapple as a good DPS on this Hangzhou Spark DPS line. And then speaking for the rest of this, like, we know these people, Bernard, Gouchre, Liga, these are all amazing tanks. I hope we get to see Liga some more this year. If he's got some capabilities that Bernard hasn't, which I actually doubt. They've played Bernard most of the year in 2021, so I don't see any reason for them to stick with to forgo Bernard this year. But if they do end up switching between them, that could be maybe an issue. That could be maybe something that gets them some wins. I don't know. I don't know if Overwatch 2, if the teamwork of it really sort of revolves around having a consistent tank just to sit in that one position and to keep team synergy, or if switching between them for different metas is going to be the way to go. And then looking at a rookie support line of Super Rich, his Wikipedia page is still listed as his name in 2021, Hao Tian, and as well as Irony. I think these players, at least Super Rich, has a lot of potential. I'm not too sure about Irony. He could, I believe he was somewhere near the top of Korean flex supports in 2021. Not too sure. Or was Irony in Chinese contenders? I'm not sure. Because looking at this, I'm a little cautiously looking at this, thinking whether or not they have the star power it takes to reach the highest potentials. I think they could reach that, definitely. But I think my thoughts on the support line and just the 100 Spark in general all boil down to the fact of whether they're or not they're actually going to figure out their coaching structure, their management structure, because we've already had like the general manager, I think. No, not the general manager, but whatever Xiao Gui, his role in the 100 Spark was. I think the 100 Spark could prove to have some issues, or not. They could just completely surprise us, fix everything, and then be one of the best teams in the league. I don't know. I think the support line has a little too much uncertainty. I think I think the coaching structure or the management of the 100 Spark could still prove to be an absolute nuisance this year. I don't know. It's really a flip of a coin with the Spark for me. They're either going to be incredibly high or incredibly low. I don't know, and I'm not sure where I'm going to place them until we do our power rankings. So that'll be fun. What if I actually just do the power rankings as coin flips? It'd be terrible, but I'd probably do it. All right, on to the Houston Outlaws, and I think I'm going to speed through the rest of this because I've been rambling on for a bit. My throat's starting to hurt, and I don't want to be here all day. Dante, Merit, Pelican. It sounds like a pretty good DPS line. I think it's just a matter of whether they're going to figure out how they actually want to play out this DPS line. I think Pelican, definitely you want there on there at all times. Dante, his long range hit scan capabilities, not too sure. And then you have Merit there as well, who isn't entirely like proven to be a top performer. He could definitely surprise us. I could absolutely see that. But having him as basically the hit scan in some sense, and you don't have exactly a clear idea of actually who's going to play long range hit scan, if that ever becomes meta. I feel like there's stuff to have to figure out there. And then you have, well, the first solo tank, I believe, in Piggy, and then you have Iris and Lastro for a double flex support. You also have Jake, who could potentially be, I just realized, Jake could be playing the Doomfist tank. Or maybe some of the other off tank-ish roles in Overwatch 2. Not too sure. But this seems like a roster with very limited flexibility. You don't have a clear-cut main support, which apparently Lucio is meta, or seems to be the best hero of Overwatch 2 so far. So who the fuck knows? You only have a single tank, so Piggy has to take on all of the tank unless Jake hops in, or fuck, I don't know, maybe Pelican or Dante or Merit plays tank. And then you have a DPS line without clear-cut roles. This is a DPS line which this is a team that I'm not entirely sure about, and I think if Scrimbucks are to be believed, they're not performing too great either. I think this team could prove to be not that great. Yeah, that's all I have to say about Houston Outlaws. Moving on then, and we've just reached our halfway point. We're talking about the London Spitfire right now. A very interesting team. You have a lot of players here who perhaps aren't the top of the rookies, the ladder of like rookies coming into the league this year, but there's still some standout names. You still have Shax and Sparker, who are probably some of the best EU talent out there on DPS. And then you add Backbone to that, who isn't a particularly outstanding player from EU contenders, but basically known for being like the one British flex DPS out there, projectile specialist. I think this DPS line could do some damage in the right metas. Then you have a tank line of Hardy and Poco, of which I'm incredibly high on coming into Overwatch 2. That's just a gut feeling. I have no basis for that other than he's had flashes of great performances in the past on like the Fusion. Well, he's only ever been on the Fusion in the past. But and then you had Hardy to that, who didn't have a great year on the Spitfire, but I think he could redeem himself this year if he decides to lean into the brawly tank style that he had success as Wrecking Ball in Contenders when he was still playing in Contenders in 2020. I think this tank line could be underrated coming into the season. And then you have more rookies, Admiral and Landon of course replacing I'm tempted to say his name, or he who must not be named, but yeah, well, Provide, having done having had things revealed about him that are just terrible, kicked off the team as he rightfully deserves and replaced by Landon, who perhaps doesn't feel the best way about how he's been added to this team, and I'm not too entirely sure about his own performances. I think Landon, despite almost being forced into the situation and being the best talent there was for a quick replacement, I think Landon could still prove to be very good. And then you have Admiral as well, who was previously on British Hurricane, and I feel like it gives me hope that this support line is not going to be completely bad. I think they have a lot of potential actually. And notably, you also have Christopher now as the head coach of this team, which I think is an incredibly large win for the Spitfire. You have that connection between Poco and Christopher. Christopher is also just an amazing, I think he's accepted, I think, or like talked about amongst pro players as being this amazing coach. I think he can do a lot of good things for the Spitfire. Moving on though, Gladiators. Hopefully not the Satiators this year, because you've got a fucking cracked team, if I do say so. Arns, Kevster, Padapan. I think this is the only place where I could see some conflict occurring, just in the fact that the clear-cut roles here I'm not too sure about, because Arns and Kevster, if it was just Arns and Kevster, that's just hit scan projectile. But you add Padapan in there, and you think, where does Padapan fit in all this? Probably just as a substitution when they need him for a specific meta. And I guess that's the way I'm thinking about it. So what's to say that the Gladiators aren't going to think about it that way as well? But if they don't, that suggests that they have some issues thinking about what they want to do with their team. But if Scrimbox are to be believed, that they are doing very, very well. So we'll just see. But I have incredibly high hopes for this team, just in general. You have Reiner and Space on tank. Space, Rollstar last year, legendary. Just I'm almost certain certainly is going to do amazing things for this team. And you add Reiner as well on top of that. Reiner being this NA Contenders main tank that is probably known for having an Overwatch 2 playstyle, a playstyle that fits Overwatch 2. I think Reiner could also prove to do amazing things as well. And then on top of that, still you have the shoe skewed support duo, but you add to that Funny Astro. They had Moth last year, and they didn't play Moth because Moth didn't fit their playstyle. But now you add the main support of Phenom and like incredibly deadly main support that is Funny Astro. Funny Astro is going to do amazing things for this team. If he's gonna do what Moth couldn't provide for the Gladiators, and that is a main support that the Gladiators probably need. This team on the face of it is incredible, and on top of that, you have the coach's face, who is probably has a head coach who's probably bringing like the structure to this team, because he's been on the Gladiators since last year, since 2019. I'm not sure, 2018, 2020. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly. But then you add on top of that Unter, who has done amazing things for the Atlanta Reign. Basically went over there and seemed to have this correlation that as soon as he joined, the Reign immediately got better. And then you also add Smash, who was previously the head coach of O2 Blast. And this is showing to be an incredible team. Definitely top tier, at least. And if they don't reach somewhere at all above top 4, top 3 even, that is just a damn shame. Talking about the Los Angeles Valiant now, a very interesting team. You've got 5 DPS players here, and at the time of recording, and one of them has just been announced. Basically, Hacker. I'm not too sure, but he's from what I've heard, he's a Sombra one trick from 2019. A good Sombra one trick, but Sombra one trick. I'm not sure what he brings to this team. I'm not sure what their plan is for him. I think we'll start from the bottom though. Coldest and Langsa. I think Coldest still has a lot to prove for himself at the Overwatch League level. He's not played much, and I think he's still very good, considering what people thought of him back in 2020, at the start of 2020, when he was just signed to the Hungry Spark. I think Coldest still has a lot to prove. And Langsa, he played for the Hunters in 2020, and I remember Langsa being sneaky good, being underrated. I think Langsa, after improving as well after a year of Contenders, he has a lot to prove, and I think he's gonna prove to us that he can perform at the Overwatch League level. They also have one tank player in Sashin, originally a DPS player, and moved to playing the off-tank role. I think Sashin will be able to provide a lot to this LA Valiant team, because he's got that basis in DPS, in flex DPS, but can also flex onto off-tank as his main role these days. I think Sashin could do good things, at least for this team. I'm not sure what they want to do about main tank if it ever comes to it. I think that's a place where flexibility might be lacking. But you talk about flexibility, you look at the DPS line. They have 5 DPS players. This is just the shock from 2020. Becky, Dia, EasyHan, Haker. I'm gonna call him Haker, and Innovation. People like EasyHan and Innovation and Becky, you think of them as sort of not the top tier talent that they could have picked up. They seem like decently cheap pickups, and you think to yourself that, oh, perhaps this is all they could get with their budget, and they just picked up sort of the scraps of Chinese and Korean. I think Becky's originally from Korean Contenders. EasyHan, I believe, was also Chinese Contenders, but I could be talking out of my ass there. You have Dia though, who's going to be, the spotlights are going to be on Dia. I think he's going to have outstanding performances this year, redeeming himself from being benched all the time on 2019, being on the own 40 Dragons. You have these other DPS players that are just there to probably support Dia, in my opinion. Like I don't know what Haker's role is going to be on this team. Did they just decide to bring him in to fill some random hole in the meta? Because I'm pretty sure that 3 DPS players should be able to cover most bases, and Haker is just here to like hang out and fill whatever niche that they don't have, which I don't know. Easy Han on Hitscan, and I believe Becky and Innovation are flex players. It's just very odd to me how this team has ended up. I think at the end of it all, you have to look at the coaches, particularly No Hill, the head coach of this team, and I would probably put my trust in No Hill that he has figured something out, but I'm just not very sure. I'll be completely honest. I want to believe in this team though. That's the thing. I want to believe that they can do good. As to whether they'll actually achieve that, we'll just have to see. Moving on though, talking about the New York Excelsior, and they have quite a small roster, working at the league minimum. 2 DPS players in Flora and Yaki, 2 tank players in Kellen and Vulcan, and 2 flex supports, no main supports, 2 flex supports in Myungbong and Gangnamjin. It seems very stacked on all bases, except for maybe tank. Vulcan and Kellen, they both to me seem like unknown quantities, at least on the Overwatch League scale. I think Kellen being one of the, I think he was the best main tank prospect out of Contender's career after people like Mag and Muse had left. Kellen seems to be a good pickup and can have success in Overwatch 2. I'm just not too sure exactly where on the success scale he stands. And then you add Vulcan as well, an American off tank. And I think this is the most unknown quantity to me for this entire video. Like I'm basically not sure at all where Vulcan stands in the whole scheme of things. I almost don't want to even talk about Vulcan because I just don't know what I can say about him, except that I'm not sure. But then you look at the other team, the rest of the team, Flora and Yaki as a hit scan, I cannot talk, as a hit, oh my god, I am tripping. Flora and Yaki as a DPS duo. This seems incredibly strong, incredibly stacked. Like Flora, one of the craziest hit scans prospects, one of the craziest rookies from the APAC region last year, who just was on a struggling team. And then you have Yaki as well on top of that, potential was like rookie of the year in that talk back when he was a rookie, and possibly one of the best DPS players in the entire world. And then on top of that, you have a support line of Myung and Gangnam. Now, granted, they don't have a main support, but I could definitely see them having tons of success in the double flex support meta. If you just have someone to cover the flex main support, okay, they both have the capability, in my opinion, to cover each other's bases just on flex support and both be able to provide amazing performances. Not too sure about this whole situation, if I'm being completely honest. And I guess I'm still thinking about tanks as duos. Perhaps just by themselves, Kellen and Vulcan can prove to be quite good. But in the whole scheme of things, I'm not too sure. But tanks aside, the rest of the team, 4 out of 5 positions in the roster in a game at any one time. It seems like an incredibly strong team. And if they have zero success with this, and I can't see that. I genuinely can't see that. I think at worst they're about mid-tier. Just the rest of this team, other than the tanks, seem too good to not do anything. If the last year's New Excelsior, with their minimum expectations, were able to go to two stage finals, was that? I believe NYXL last year made it to 2-stage finals. If that's not the case, then well, I don't see how anything's going to save the New Excelsior this year. All right, moving on then. Paris Eternal. Again, another stacked roster, although flexibility might be lacking a little bit. Glister and Naga It's very interesting to me to see that they're bringing like Korean coaches, and they've also brought over Glister to play for the Paris Eternal. Now, Glister was on the Shock last year and had, I think, okay and great performances. If JMac and Mobuki can find the incredible performances consistently out of Glister throughout the entire year, I think that's an incredible win. Glister, it was so highly rated, and I think he still has the potential to reach those high expectations that we had of him in his rookie year. Pair that alongside with Naga, one of the best flex DPS players in the game right now, and you've got an incredible DPS duo that I believe will do great things. It just depends on whether Glister is going to fit into this team structure at all, because it is essentially the exact same as last year. You still have Dan and Vestola, who I think are some of the best EU tank players there are, and I think they can do amazing things on tank this year. Add that to Dredra and Khan, who they have incredible synergy with each other. Khan doing amazing things on flex support, and being an incredibly bloodthirsty flex support as well. If the meta or like patch changes for Overwatch League throughout the time of the Overwatch League, then I think, and flex support becomes more important than it already is, then I think Khan could be incredibly valuable to this team. Dredra as well, who I highly rated from last year's season. I think this entire team is bound to do good things. It's just a matter of whether Dredra has the flexibility to go into flex support, whether Glister and Naga can cover each other's bases if it ever comes to an unconventional meta. Other than that, though, I see Paris Eternal as doing good things. I think one of the most interesting teams of this offseason, at least to me personally, talk about the Philadelphia Fusion right now. On paper, this seems like a pretty good team. People like Fixer and Bella's Rhea, these are rookies that you're not entirely sure on. They're a bit of an unknown quantity. I think Fixer has had some good showings, but at the Overwatch League level, it's unsure. And then you have Bella's Rhea as well, who sort of sits below Kellen in that rookie main tank ladder. So you're unsure as to where he's going to sit. But then you look at the rest of this roster, Fury on off tank. I'm pretty sure they're going to be playing Fury most of the time, if not all of the time. Carpe, NM3, and Zest as a DPS trio, like just MN3 and Carpe by themselves, that's already stacked. Add Zest to that, who is probably going to be having some good performances, if not great performances, on projectile DPS. This is proving to be a DPS line that could do great things. Then you have Aim God as well, who has been in the scene for so long and still being picked up by the Fusion. Clearly the Fusion sees something in him, and I mean, why not? Previous performances of Aim God, he's had flashes of really good performances. As to whether he can hold that consistency throughout an entire year, I think that will be the challenge for Aim God this year. But other than that, overall, I have belief in the Fusion this year. I'm sorry, Fusion fans of their copium. I think this is a good year for you. If I just jinxed you the fuck to hell, I am sorry, but I have faith. Talking about the Shock now, a team of a lot of rookies, and it's really sad to see Super go this year. I think Super could have done amazing things, but you have Kaluj to take his not exactly to fill his shoes, because Kaluj is not going to be filling those shoes at all. He's not playing main tank. He's not going to be like the new face of the league or whatever. But Kaluj, just in terms of the tank role for the Shock, I think he has a lot of what it takes. He has a lot of potential. Probably not all the potential to meet all of the expectations that he needs as a solo main tank going into Overwatch 2. But I think he can do good things. I add on top of that Finn and Violet as a flex support duo, no main support this year as well. So I think Shock have some places to lose in the main support category, and you consider that Violet is probably going to be playing main support. Like, this isn't the best situation for it to play out. We don't want to really see the Violet Lucio again, but if it happens, can't cry over spilled milk. If it happens, it happens, but it's interesting to see where the tank and support cinders go. But then you look at your DPS line, proper rookie of the year, top rookie of the year candidate. He's expected to do amazing things. You have Kilo, who has who's like a flashy kind of hit scan, but I say flashy, that's not the right word to use, but flashy in the terms of he has flashes of success. And then you have Sam as well, probably just to fill in holes in the meta on specific projectile heroes. I think this team is very interesting. They could probably do a lot of good things, and you have to think that with the caliber of some of their players, that this isn't going to be a bottom tier team, or at least like, or top of the mid tier. But it's also hard to see them being elite unless these players surprise us. It's pretty hard, for, in my opinion, to see them as being incredibly successful. And I think talking about Kilo makes me want to hop back to talking about the Houston Outlaws, because Merit is in that rookie DPS player category. And when I consider that probably Kilo and Merit are about the same level across like the rookie hit scan prospects coming into this year in terms of their expectations, but for different reasons. It makes me view the Houston Outlaws as being a bit lower than what I initially thought of them. I'm not too sure. Moving on to talking about the Seoul Dynasty, however, and this is a team that I'm tempted to say very excited for. I guess I'm just excited. You have Fits and Profits, the classic DPS line of the Seoul Dynasty that has been for 3 years now. Well, this would be the third year, I should say. And then you add Stalker on top of that, who's going to be just a fine bench player, I think. Perhaps even a tank player on Doomfist, who knows? And you have Smurf as well, who I think is the most unknown part of this team. It's a lot of weight to be putting on a single tank player for the entire team to cover all the tank bases. Smurf, I feel like he can be good in Overwatch 2. I just don't feel like he's enough for the entirety of the Seoul Dynasty. I think Seoul Dynasty are going to need to sign another player just to cover off tanks. And then you have also Creative and Vindime, who's going to cover flex and main support respectively just fine. Creative, I think he has shown a lot of good stuff in the Overwatch League in the past and is bound to show more. And I think Vindime is another main support coming out of contenders that I'm pretty excited for. This team as a whole is pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing how this team performs, although flexibility obviously is the big worry. If nothing else, Fits and Profit carrying the Seoul Dynasty, I could see that. I believe in this team and the coaching staff. I think Toby being very respected by these players. I think he's going to be bringing a lot of his ideas into the Dynasty, and the Dynasty are going to put that into play, and then I guess from then on it's just a matter of will they actually perform. Who knows? We'll see. Alright, final stretch. The Shanghai Dragons. If anyone says anything other than Shanghai Dragons being the top seed coming into the number one prospect coming into prospect, that's not the right word to use. I'm very tired. I'm gonna wrap the rest of this up really quick. I've been at this for way too long. How long have I been recording for? Fucking hell, I've been recording for 54 minutes. Flutter, Lip, who are you? Same as last year. Fate, Void, same as last year. Baby, Iziaki, Lee Jungan, just Baby this year. That's the one difference. But I think Bebe is going to do just fine. Shanghai Dragons number 1. That's an easy one to just like get out the way because I don't want to be here all day. I've already been here all day. I need to go to sleep. Although Finale, Hisu, Hotba, Muse, Chorong, Twilight for the Toronto Defiant. Chorong Twilight to me seems like an incredible support duo. The top main support prospect coming out of contenders, and then you add Twilight to that, who's just amazing. You add Hotba and Muse, who actually seems like a tank line that's a little bit meh. Hotba could prove to be good in Overwatch 2. Muse could prove to be good in Overwatch 2. They could even prove to be great. I'm just not sure if they're actually going to get that far. But I think they don't need to. See, I've reached a point where I am talking out of my ass, so I really do need to wrap this up, because by this point I'm just going to be rambling. Hotba, Muse, good. They can be great. That's what I believe, truly. And then you have Aldo, Finale, and Hisu. And I feel like Toronto Defiant, they've built this team around Hisu. Hisu and Finale, I think Finale is a hit scan player from what I remember. If I could just double check that real quick. He's actually a flex player, a projectile player. And then you also have Aldo, who is also a flex player. So Hisu being your main hit scan, which I'm not entirely convinced on, actually. I'm not sure that Hisu has everything that it takes. Hisu has had amazing showings in the past. I think consistency is what he really needs at this time. And Finale and Aldo, they could probably do a good enough job of the flex DPS players that it's not too much of a concern. I think if Hisu can find the consistency, he's going to be the star player. Finale and Aldo, I don't feel like they have necessarily the takes to be on the same level as Hisu. They're just going to be there to accompany him. So when I look at Toronto Defiant, I like Hisu, I like Shore and Twilight. The rest of the tanks and DPS, they just seem like fillers. Like they just needed someone to be there. Almost. Like that's not the case at all, but I could see it playing out like that. Vancouver Titans is a team that I am hopeful about. I think Aztec as a flexible, and this is very interesting, where Aztec, he hasn't had a chance to truly prove himself at the top level. I think he needs like playtime as the full-on flexible, and at that point he can prove to the world whether he's capable or not. I think he is. I think Aztec could prove to be very good. I could be just making an absolute dog shit take there, but it's just I don't know, I have a gut feeling. Masa obviously still is here, and I think Masa is going to be able to bring some veteran leadership. His play also had a dip in 2020, but was amazing in pretty good in 21. I mean, in 2022, I think he could bring good stuff. And you add to that Sky Ripper, who's a flex support contenders player. I think this is a pretty good support line. If they can bring it together, I can see them doing good things. You add to that the tank player in False. I think this is a good pickup. I'm unsure whether False can be great, but I think False has the potential to do amazing things. And then you have this DPS line, which I highly, highly rate. Shockwave and Aspire are going to do wonders for this team, I think. And then you have Psycho as well, who is going to be filling in that projectile specialist role. And I think Psycho only really has to do a good enough job because people like Aspire and Shockwave can carry him, I think. I have probably unjustifiably high expectations of Vancouver Titans, but I still feel like I just have this gut feeling that Vancouver Titans are going to surprise everyone. the coaching structure is still the same. You have uncertainties about their flex support, their flex DPS, and you have a solo tank. It's not racking up good for my hot take, but I've said it. I'm just gonna keep at it. Then you have Washington Justice, which I feel like has a bunch of weird signings. You still have Decay and Assassin. Assassin has had flashes of greatness. Decay is Decay, and you add Happy to that, to a roster where I feel like it's uncertain how he's going to fit in, unless they absolutely want Hitscan Tracer for Happy Decay. I still feel like Decay Assassin is going to be the main roster that you're going to roster on at any one time. You had Kalios as the off tank, who I feel like can do good things in Overwatch 2, but I'm not too sure. And then you add Mag as well, who had an okay year in 2022, but the Justice, the team was just not good, to the point where no one really knows the capability of Mag if we were able to see his full potential. And then moving out from Overwatch 1 into Overwatch 2, I'm not sure how Mag is going to cope with that. I feel like Mag, he could see even lower lows than he did last year. Then you have main support Opener to replace Closer. I'm not gonna ramble on about this joke because everyone has been overdoing it, but I think Opener is sneaky good, but then again, very under quantity. He played in Australian Contenders on loan from Gen G. Whether he's going to perform at all is a big question. Then you add Krillin, who's going to be playing mostly the flexible, and Vigilante is only going to be available for. He's not going to be available for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 2 months, I should say. Overall, this team is not something I'm completely confident in. Not completely confident in the supports. Not completely confident in the tanks. Not completely confident in how this DPS line is going to work out. I think Washington Justice are still going to be pretty bad. I'll be completely honest. Okay. So that's all the teams out the way. And I think now is about time for us to start looking at our actual power rankings. Putting Shanghai Dragons at the top for obvious reasons. I'm putting Gladiators at the top for now for obvious reasons, and Dallas Fuel. Now the rest of this power rankings is where it gets a little bit because in terms of I feel like the top 3 here is pretty safe to say, and obviously I could just throw in any other one of these teams up there just to shake things up. Washington Justice I'm gonna put very low this year again, unfortunately. I am also going to put Houston Outlaws down here, unfortunately. Sorry, Outlaws fans. I just don't think Outlaws are gonna bring it together. I'll be completely honest. I feel like it's still hard to say. Teams like Outlaws, Justice, Defiant, Spark, even Mayhem. I feel like these are the 5 teams where people would put Vancouver Titans in this category, but I'm unjustifiably rating them kind of high. Sorry, not sorry, but I feel like these are the 5 teams where I'm just not certain that they're going to bring it all together. I feel like these are the teams that are going to shit the bed. I probably should have actually done the tier list where the bottom tier is just shitting the bed. They're not going to bring it together. Something's going to fuck up with them. But that's just how I see it. I think above these teams that I will have Paris and Vancouver. I'll bring Spitfire. Now, Paris or Spitfire. I'll order the bottom 5 later on. Spitfire versus Eternal. I might actually also bring Spark out of here. I think perhaps Spark has a chance to bring it together this year. I will see. I think the next bottom 2 though, between Paris and Vancouver. This is difficult. I think Vancouver Titans are just like happy where they are right there. Then between London and Paris, I probably rate Paris higher. I do rate Paris higher actually. Yeah. What am I saying? Paris probably would beat London in any matchup. Then I think you have to bring Valiant down to this level, but I still think Valiant are going to have maybe more wins, but they're also in a more competitive region in APAC. It's hard to say. I think Guangzhou belong here as well. I predict that if the end of the season rankings look like this, it's going to be that the Valiant and Guangzhou are just down below because the rest of the teams in APAC are going to feed on them. Unless Hangzhou is here as well. Oh god, this is really difficult to say. I feel like there has to be a bottom feeder team in APAC though. Because the bottom 6 is all NA so far. And not all of the APAC teams are going to be competing with each other. I think that Valiant exists like here. Yes, I am going to say that. They're going to get more teams than the Shitters and more than Titans. I think Valiant and Titans belong in that category of they're gonna get upset wins, but it's not enough to get them anywhere out of the bottom of mid tier. They're at least not Shitters. Then I think a team like the Boston Uprising, I just feel like the entire team as a whole, they're not at that level. I think bottom of mid tier is a decent place to put them. I think I'm gonna put them here. Ooh, I think actually I'll put Paris above Boston. Then I think between Guangzhou and Hangzhou, I think Guangzhou are gonna have a better year than Hangzhou, unfortunately. This could be a hot take, but I think Hangzhou are gonna like not have half the year where they don't have it together, and then half the year where they do. That's just how I'm predicting it. But better than Seoul Dynasty though. Again, this is something I'm not completely sure about. I think they have what it takes to beat Seoul. And I think Paris are going to do better in the standings than Seoul. Then looking at the San Francisco Shock, New York. Actually, I'll take a look at Philly internally just to finish out APAC. Because right now, these are the teams that I have highest for APAC. And oh, that's really difficult, actually. I think all in all, Dragons have what it takes to just completely wipe the floor with APAC. If I just keep them all here just so I can look at this. I feel like I want to put Chengdu above Fusion. Rep the boys. But I just don't know if they still had the full roster. If they had a Pritter, I'll be putting them so much higher. Fusion, Charge, Spark. Sorry, I'm sorry to the Joes. I am gonna keep these two where they are. I think New York is right about mid-tier. I mean, what's that position? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eighth? No, I'm gonna put New York right there, right between Guangzhou and Hangzhou. Again, the battle of the Joes. It feels like every year it comes down to this, but I feel like they're gonna perform better than expected. Shock. I just don't know. I feel like I'm not sure, but I want to take mid-season signings into account as well, because for a team like Seoul, they're probably going to pick up some new player just to fill in the roles that they don't already cover, and they're going to be fine. They're going to pick up an off tank, and then they're going to be fine, instead of everyone wiping the floor of them. I feel like that also maybe applies to Outlaws. Probably to the Shock, you'd also have to think. But there's not many prospects out there left to be picked up. I think Shock I'm going to be putting lower on the tier list. I think New York has what it takes to beat the Shock though. But you still have Proper and Violet there, I don't know. I'm gonna put the Shock like right here. And then Atlanta, like I have high hopes about Atlanta. I think they're gonna do really good. If I just leave it like this, would I be happy about that? I think I'm gonna put a tier break right here. But goddamn, is that where I'm just happy to place this power ranking? Order these around a bit as well, I think. Because right now that's just an alphabetical order, but you know what? I don't know. I might just be happy with that. Ah no, surely Define are not that bad. Yeah. You know what? I think I'm happy with that. I think I can accept the flack of if I am just unjustified in my thoughts on this power rankings. It's too late for me. I need to go to sleep, but that's it. That's my power rankings. From top to bottom: Shanghai Dragons, Los Angeles Gladiators, Dallas Fuel, Atlanta Reign, Chengdu Hunters, Philadelphia Fusion, Guangzhou Charge, San Francisco Shock, New York Excelsior, Hangzhou Spark, Paris Eternal, Seoul Dynasty, Boston Uprising, London Spitfire, LA Valiant, Vancouver Titans, Toronto Defiant, Houston Outlaws, Florida Mayhem, Washington Justice. That's too late for this shit. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye.